Hi everybody. I'm wondering if anyone will turn up and say hello, but I'm going to start anyway. I thought it would be really fun to start doing kind of like Tea with a Druid that's been happening on Obod, but do our own. It's more about what we're about in Druids Down Under, and I thought it would be fun to call it Druids Down Under Discuss Everything, so that it's dude, because it's fun to make it. Oh, hang on, I just got a little thing on the screen that was making it so I couldn't see things. Hello, people are turning up. That's really fun. Okay, so yeah, I thought we would call it DUDE because I like stupid acronyms that make me laugh. Helps me to remember that we don't need to take ourselves too seriously all the time. Let me know if you can hear me okay, and if this is working all right. So yeah, hopefully it's all good. Yay, funny. So I had a talk organised for this morning for Tea with a Druid, and unfortunately it got double booked, and somebody else ended up doing it instead of me, and I thought, stuff it, I'm going to do the talk anyway, because it'll be fun to talk to you guys about this, because it seemed to be related to what we were doing at this time of the year, because what I wanted to talk about was tree planting. It was something that Philip was talking about on the Obod talks, and how we can, make a small difference, and if each of us makes a small difference, then it can make a bigger difference around the world. And I was thinking about how this can relate to our Wheel of the Year work, and how getting to know our local area and learning about the cycles of the seasons in our place, and the the sacred trees that are in the places that we live in, and getting to know those really closely, we can also work on planting those trees and encouraging those ecosystems to thrive. So yes, that's kind of the whole thing of what I wanted to talk about. But yeah, it started with this idea of, there's a lot of stuff happening in the world that isn't necessarily good at the moment, that's making us, a lot of us feel really down about our inability to really get anything happening, sort of whether it's politically or environmental issues or whatever it is. We often feel powerless, and Philip was talking about how we have our wider circle of concern, but we also have our circle of influence, which is much smaller, and it's the things that we can actually affect in the world. And there's nothing quite as immediate and that you can influence yourself as planting a tree and doing something so real as that, and making, and you can do this anywhere. Like, planting trees is actually fairly easy. I know that you might not be able to grow them forever, but they do grow quite slowly. It's not like having a vegetable garden where they take up quite a lot of space over a short period of time, and then you have to manage that quite heavily over the growing time. Growing a tree takes a really long time, so you could plant a seed from something that you've found locally that you want to encourage there to be more of, and that they might take weeks and weeks to get even tiny growth on them. They're quite a slow thing to grow, but really satisfying, and much more of longevity. They last for a much longer time than growing veggies, so it's a really lovely thing to do. And I was really also influenced by when we were down at the Druid camp in Adelaide, and we did these beautiful ritual activities around the idea of your local square mile being important. I want to say hello to everybody that's been saying hi. I see you with your comments. But yeah, this idea that we need to think about where we live, and think about the area immediately around us, that 1 square mile, or that 2 kilometers or so, that, within walking distance of our home, and knowing what is growing there, what's thriving there, and finding seeds if that's appropriate. It might be in your backyard, or it might be in the gardens around your apartment block, or it might be you know, in a park, or sometimes even just in a car park or somewhere like that. Or I don't know, if you're going to pick up the kids from school, you might find there's some little native grass seeds or something like that. Something that isn't in a national park where you're not supposed to take seeds from, but you can get seeds from so many public spaces quite easily, and then grow them at home. And it's a beautiful thing to do, to connect with, and you can actually feel like you're making a difference in doing that. And yeah, so you know, you might find that there are certain things that you really find easy to grow, and other ones that are a bit harder, and you might find that you develop a relationship with them, and you might find that you enjoy understanding the cycles of their growth as well, and that the whole process can actually be really enriching for our understanding of the Wheel of the Year too. So yeah, I think it's a lovely way that we can really bring it in close. And you know, we talk about the Wheel of the Year in terms of like a very wide experience that's almost global or ancestral, or but there's also those sort of closer versions of the Wheel of the Year, like what I've been talking about in my book with that Sydney coastal wheel. But also, you know, there could be the Wheel of the Year for your backyard or that square mile, and learning about what plants are there can be a really fun way to get into that. So yeah, I just thought I would share that idea with you. And yes, so I've kind of gone through all of my notes really, really fast and got it all out really quickly. But yeah, because I suppose I was going to explain this on the OBOD group, where people wouldn't have been so familiar necessarily with that idea of creating a local Wheel of the Year. Whereas talking to people on Druids Down Under, there's much more of a familiarity with that, I think, because I don't know, because we have those challenges here that we are often working with, understanding those different cycles and those different trees and things like that. What are some of the trees around my home? Thanks, Jody. Questions make it easier for me to keep going. So we've got Xanthorrhoea. I haven't been able to find seeds of those, but let me tell you what I have been able to get seeds of. I think like noticing like what you've actually got in your area and finding what you can grow might be different. But what I've been able to grow has been wattle seeds and gum seeds. I'm not actually sure what kind of gum tree they came off, because I found the gum nuts on the ground in our backyard, and so I have to identify which tree they are when they grow a little bit more. But because they're quite slow growing, it could be black ash, or a peppermint, or a brittle gum, or a scribbly gum. Those are the ones that we have in our backyard. We've also got some Lomandra longifolia, which is a great grass for making cordage out of, like ropes, and then you can use it for making baskets and things too. And I've managed to, they've got quite big yellow seeds on them, and I've managed to use those and planted those. They take ages to come up, but they're really nice to grow. And you know, if you grow these and you don't have a big area to plant them out or anything, if they're getting a bit too big, then you can just give them to people. I've found some of the plants that I've been growing, you know, I found friends that wanted a tree for their garden, or wanted, you know, to plant something special, and I've been able to give them away to people, which has been really nice. I'm thinking I might even donate some to the local school. We've got a bush backyard, so we can do it there, but if you don't have that, then there's other opportunities for ways that you can give them away. And you know, like if we were all doing this, and from a tiny little, you know, little bunch of gum nuts, or a handful of seed pods from a wattle tree, you can get so many seeds, and planting them out. I've got maybe, I don't know, 100. Yeah, giving them as gifts is a great idea. Just, you know, you can wrap them up and give them as birthday presents or something like that, and you know, you've got trees starting to grow around the place. But if you find them in parks or something, there's a potential, like, I mean, depending on the park, but there might be some places where you can actually go and plant some trees. We've got a community garden here where that sort of thing would be quite welcome, but you'd have to ask, I suppose, whether that's something that you could do in your park. Other things that I've grown, I've got bottle brush in my backyard, so I've just been growing more of that so that we can have a bit of a native garden, because it's quite nice for the bees. And also I have got quite a few non-natives as well, because I like to grow them for whether it's, you know, medicinal purposes or because of just having that ancestral connection as well. Like it can be, you want to connect with all sorts of different things. If we're thinking about it in terms of the three ancestors, then we might want to look at native trees, but also ones that are from, you know, traditions that we're interested in as well, or from lands where our families came from. There's you know, all trees are beautiful, and all trees are making an environmental difference, as long as they're not like an invasive species or something. Where I live, I've had quite a lot of luck with oaks, and I love growing oaks because they're actually a really they're a good food plant. We've actually been collecting acorns locally and then processing them to make a flour that we use to make bread, just as an additive to bread, but it adds a lot of richness and protein to the bread, and it's really lovely. So I actually love that I live in an area where oaks can grow, and I've been planting some oak trees as well because they're quite easy to grow here. Other things, tea tree I've been growing, and gophra, and also hakea, but hakea has been planting itself in the pots, and if I see one I just kind of pick them out and put them somewhere else. So if you've got natives around in your garden, they tend to just grow themselves around. I should just mention that you can't actually sell native plants unless you have a license, but you can grow things from seed that are collected in areas that are okay to collect in, and you can give those plants away, or you can use them yourself, or you can plant them somewhere, but you can't sell them unless you have a license. So just a good thing to know, I suppose. So yeah, unless anybody has any questions, I'll sort of work towards finishing up, because I don't want these to take too long. But I'm really hoping that some other people would like to join in with this idea and share a video at some point. It's really nice to have people interact and ask questions, and to see that people are there listening. And hopefully we can make this something that happens regularly, and we can all have a bit of a chat together through it, which would be really fun, and share some of our ideas. I wanted to finish off with a poem that I wrote that probably some of you have heard before, but I'm going to read it out anyway, because I wrote it when I was just feeling the weight of the environmental crisis, I suppose, and how my little contribution could make a difference. It's called Plant Trees. Heart sunk with the weight of 1,000 disappointments. Heart sunk with realizing they really just don't care. Heart sunk for the ones I love, the earth, the seas, the sky. Heart sunk. I place my hand upon her. I place my hand on the earth, and through tears of despair, I collect seeds of promise, a handful of hope. I plant them in the soil. I collect fresh water, and I feed them. I let the sun kiss them and rouse them from their beds, the tiniest of forests, collected in pots. And as I tend them, I see the cleared land. I see the dying coral reef. I see the poisoned skies. A knot of sadness sits on my chest. I want to turn those tides. Counting all the losses, a heart-wrenching loss I could never replace. But I do what I can. With my 2 small hands, I plant trees. I plant trees. I plant trees. And helped by the earth, the rain, the sky, working together, we do what we can. Please help us to imagine how much 4 hands could do. So, yes. Yeah, I think learning more about these places that we live in is not just a form of activism, but it's also like the more that we do this work and learn to understand how these plants grow and how long it takes, and what kind of seasons they want to grow best in and what kind of things that they need and what sort of soils that they like. We're not just learning about those plants, we're learning about that whole system, and we're learning about that wheel of the year that we're wanting to bring into our practice as well. And through that, we're learning stories as well about the places that we live in and about these trees and how important that is to what we're doing. And yeah, I would encourage you to tell those stories too. So learning about the plants where you live, maybe thinking about what your 9 sacred plants, that's what we did at that Druid camp. We found the 9 sacred plants of the area, and thinking about what your 9 sacred plants are where you live can be a really powerful way to start that connection, and then perhaps thinking about growing them and making that difference in the places where you live too can be that little form of activism as well. So thank you so much for your positive comments. It's lovely to hear that you enjoyed the poem and that you found that inspiring after the recent political events. Yes, it's a bit disheartening, but we've just got to keep doing what we can in that little sphere of influence that we have. And I'm really glad that we can be sharing this, doing these little talks, and I really hope that this will continue so that we can continue to inspire each other and keep these discussions going to make some positive change, because this is our sphere of influence. This is the way that we can make a difference, just by talking to each other, creating community, sharing our ideas and making a difference through that. So yeah, I am going to leave it there. So yes, Arwen to you all. I hope that you have fun planting trees, and thanks for coming on. And if you are interested in getting involved with this as well, do message me and I'll see what I can do about getting you on as well. So thanks. See ya.